we are still exploring Black Brothers' ambitions and their plans to expand their resources, support their members and the community, as well as build a long-lasting legacy. Still with me in studio to provide expert insights is a resident expert, Thabiso Masudubele. Thabiso, before the break, we just wanted to talk about their monthly contributions, which is currently sitting at 160. Is that realistic in today's economic challenges?
The issue of contributions, there's no right and wrong answer. The only thing that we always engage people about is that your contribution must be very realistic in terms of what your expected outcome is. So when you set your objectives, your contribution must basically talk to what you hope to achieve at the end of it. But I think what this group has done is they've managed to arrive at a contribution that, one, and probably most important, is that every member can afford. Two, they've also managed to create different revenue streams. And three, they've managed to manage the expectations that each member can get from the contribution that they're making. So those, I think, for me, are the three things that are always the tricky balancing act that you have to get right. Making sure that, one, it's affordable. Two, there are alternative revenue streams for the group. And three, you manage the expectations in terms of what you are getting from your contribution. The problem arises where people they can't afford much, but they expect a lot. Therein comes the big problem where, I know that I can only afford 160 Rand. We don't, as yet, as a Stokvel, have any additional revenue that we're making. And I'm expecting to get a benefit of 30,000 Rand, or 50,000 Rand from the contribution that doesn't talk to that benefit that I should be getting. But in terms of this group, I think that they've managed to balance those three things quite well.
It's just unfortunate that death, you don't really plan for it. But how, because they did mention funeral coverage in this case, but how can they introduce a group funeral plan in order for them to keep their funds intact?
That's actually a very, very good question, Nando. So one of the things we engage with groups is, and one of the few disadvantages with this group is that they actually use a savings account as a funeral fund, which is something that we're engaging with them to say that that's very risky for starters.
What are the risks associated with that? One can assume that it's a benefit.
Yeah, but here's the risk. So the group might have, over the years, 20 years plus, have been saving money monthly. And as you said, death is something that we don't really have control over. We don't know when it's coming. And so with funeral cover, you're buying peace of mind more than anything. So what happens when they're using their savings account is that at that point in time, they might be sitting with, let's say, as an example, 100,000 Rand in a particular savings account, let's say, that they use to pay out benefits. And I'm going to try to explain this in general terms. So if you've got 100,000 Rand, it does seem like quite a bit of money. And let's say you're paying 10,000 Rand. The benefit is 10,000 Rand for every death claim. And we know that the requirements aren't that onerous with groups. You just have to provide a death certificate of your relative or whatever the case is. With 100,000 Rand and a 10,000 benefit, it means that if you get 10 claims in 1 month, it wipes out whatever you have in your savings kitty. Even if you can do it in 2 months, because the rate of growth, remember, you might find that the group is only contributing 2,000 Rand per month towards that thing. So whatever they're contributing doesn't cover the claim benefit. So 10 claims is very possible to have 10 claims. So given how we are living now. And so if those 10 claims come through, they pay out, their savings account is wiped out, and then an 11th claim comes out. Because you'll find that it's not only 10 people that they've got covered, it's people and their families and so on. So you might find that the lives covered are 100. But you've paid 10 claims and you've already exhausted the resources that you have in your savings account. Claim 11, claim 12 comes in, that's when you start seeing the risk to say now you're unable to pay. And you can imagine the kind of friction that causes, where you have 10 people who've claimed and they've gotten their benefit, and there are other people who've similarly paid but are unable to get their benefit. Accusations start flying around. Yeah, no, you ate the group's money and so on. Whereas it was just a bad model to use savings for a funeral fund as opposed to having an underwriter who could have covered all of those claims.
And it seems like they're on the right track because there's wedding assistance, burial assistance, and they want to invest in more major purchases. So how can they go about that?
I think in our discussions with them, one of the things that we said, they've got to sort out this situation of using a savings account as a funeral fund. And the reason that was the starting point is that once they start paying contributions to an authorized underwriter, it then frees up what they'd have in their savings account, and that would enable them to use that resource towards investing in other things that they want. So what it does is it frees up what they would have in their savings account. But it would mean that, those contributions, that lump sum that they now have, they can then make decisions around that. They then get a professional in to say, here's the business plan, here's where we are. We then take them through the steps of saying, guys, now you are a business. Now it's no longer, we've got some pots, we've got some pans, we've got a stove, you don't think of them as pots and stoves, you think of them as assets. Because ultimately you want these things to generate a revenue for you. And so the way you approach them is different. We then introduce them to the concept of an asset register. You then have to discuss where these assets are found, how they are used, what's the rate card that you're charging. Do you then get insurance, which you should, for the business asset, in case, anything can happen. The pots can get stolen. And then from the rate card, you start saying, this is how much the group can make to add to that kitty. And that's what's calling investing in your own group. So that's the discussion that we have with groups, that it is quite possible to free up the money that you have in your savings account without compromising the benefit that you'll get when a member passes away.
Essentially, just start treating this as a business.
100%.
Well, that's all from us today. If you need advice for your Stokvel or burial society, please feel free to reach out using our contact details on the screen. You can also connect with Tyvision Media Consultants on social media using the handles below. Until next time, goodbye. This program is brought to you by Tyvision Media, helping Stokvels and burial societies reach their goals.